There we go. Okay. So again, welcome everyone. I'm Gustavo. I'm the president and founder of UBCO iGEM Club. We are kind of a new club in UBCO, and one of our goals is to democratize biology so that more people can learn about it and expand their curriculums with it. But today we are joining more as a team for the iGEM competition. And this is our second goal because we want to create a new team here in our campus. So let's dive a bit into the structure for today. The outline for this meeting is going to be first explain a bit of what is synthetic biology, because that's the basics of this competition. Then we're going to explain a bit of what is iGEM, because a lot of people ask us what the part of iGEM means in our club. And then we're going to tell you, why should you participate? Why should you be part of us? So let's start with this. So what if we could save the coral reefs? We could smell extinct flowers or make food that is harm-free. What if you could grow anything? These are the kinds of questions that synthetic biology can answer. And it turns out that synthetic biology is an area of biotechnology that I like to define as redesigning life itself. So basically, we are doing something that will normally not happen in nature or will take a long time for it to happen. Synthetic biologists see cells as biological machines, just that instead of code, they use DNA, and their output are proteins. The thing is that evolution is wonderful. It was able to do a lot of really cool stuff. Look at plants, for example. They are able to grab a gas and convert it into structure. And evolution just made a lot of things, and they have already solved a lot of problems. The thing is that evolution only cares for what is good enough. If there's no external pressure, it is not going to improve, or it may even disappear. So that's when we start combining design. What if we start understanding what the genetic code means and how to do what we want it to make? That's when we combine engineering and design and biology, and we start making conscious engineering, which is a much faster process and most of the time more efficient. So a bit more about it. Really quickly, the central dogma of molecular biology tells us that if the DNA is going to make proteins, and the proteins are going to be coded by DNA. So if we understand what DNA makes, which proteins, we are going to be able to understand how to build it and move it around. And proteins, they basically make everything. Literally, they make you. So if we start understanding this, we don't usually have to do it at a molecular level. We can use these symbols, for example, that are kind of an abstraction. If we have some engineers with us, you're going to see some of this are familiar with the circuits, for example. And we're going to start abstracting and taking these biological parts that are made of genetic codes, and we are going to start playing Lego quite literally with them so that we can make new systems. And why do we do this? Because by understanding how a process system works, we will be able to reconstruct them, make them and understand them by reconstructing them. And while doing that, we will also be able to make another different biological system, something that we like. So basically, that's kind of the really big picture of it. With synthetic biology, you can do almost anything. From flowers that change color throughout the day, bioplastics, ghosts that have the spider or silk in their milk, glowing plants, and more. The limit is literally your imagination. So let's talk a bit about what is iGEM. As I said before, a lot of people have asked us, what is iGEM in your name? What does it mean? It comes from the International Genetically Engineered Machine. This is an organization that started as an MIT course around 2003. It is an independent nonprofit organization with the goals of advancing synthetic biology, making an open community, and encouraging students to make their dreams come true. One big part of this organization is the iGEM competition, which is an international competition that is carried out every year. And as you can see on the right, it has been growing throughout the years to get more universities and more participants and more teams. Right now, more than 400 teams have participated from all over the world. So what is TASK? They are multidisciplinary teams that they are going to design, build, test, measure, and create a really sophisticated project that will have a positive contribution in their communities or in the world. It can be as basic as, well, I wouldn't say basic, but it can be helping the science itself or helping a project. And iGEM also has a registry of standard parts. So basically they have a big storage of lots of Lego pieces made of DNA so that people can use them and create new things. Some teams can even add new parts from different organisms of things that they have engineered. And every year, thousands of people just dedicate their summers and their years to these iGEM projects. And they finally present their projects of synthetic biology in the Giant Jamboree. So now let's talk a bit about how does the process work. And for that, we brought a special guest, which is UBC iGEM. I don't know if you could present yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Janella, and I'm the Executive Director of UBC Vancouver's iGEM team. We've been part of the iGEM competition since 2011. And as Gustavo said, it's a really exciting competition where you get to meet people from all over the world. And what I think is really nice about it is that you really see how everyone's kind of working towards this common goal of advancing synthetic biology and therefore advancing biotechnology. And a bit about myself, I'm a fourth year undergraduate at UBC studying honors applied animal biology. So yeah, I think if you go to the next slide, maybe I can talk a bit about what my experience has been like and what it looks like to be part of iGEM. So if from this info session, you think it's something that would benefit you or you think is interesting, like what it would look like for you to join. So since iGEM is an annual competition that happens every year, usually the main task that your whole team works towards is brainstorming and coming up with a project that you want to execute for the year and present at the Giant Jamboree at the end of the year. So this begins with identifying a problem you care about. So for example, a few years ago, we identified that a lot of rural communities in BC suffer from shellfish poisoning due to toxins in shellfish. So we talked to some rural communities about this and we identified this as a problem we wanted to address, and therefore with synthetic biology. So after identifying a really relevant problem, because that's what iGEM really emphasizes in the competition, we see how we can design genetic circuits. And for example, in our case, in bacteria that could detect the amount of toxins in, for example, rivers, so that these rural communities could use, so that they could identify when water was safe to drink or not. So this involves a lot of reading papers, taking inspiration from other teams, and talking to any relevant people that could help you out in either design or identifying how to address the problem most effectively. So this part is really nice because a lot of people come up with a lot of different ideas, and you're kind of, it's a really unique experience of being able to like critique and critically evaluate each other's ideas, but at the same time coming closer together because of it. And once you have a project and a way to address the project, what ensues is executing it. So as Gustavo will explain, there's different components to what an iGEM team member can do. So clearly what a lot of people think when they think about iGEM and carrying out these projects is the wet lab components of it, and that's certainly a part of it. So it is making your DNA constructs that will be able to reach your goals. So for us, it was making plasmids that were expressed in E. coli that would be able to fluoresce certain colors if the toxin was present. And this involves a lot of molecular biology techniques and microbiology techniques in the lab. And then there are also some dry lab components that are involved, such as making a hardware and software components. So for us, it was what is going to be the actual device that people can use to detect the shellfish toxin in their waters. So this, at least in our context, comes from about February to the end of summer, and summer is when iGEM becomes the most intensive, especially for the wet lab. And towards the end in September and October, is when you have to start making all the deliverables for the competition. So this is when you kind of evaluate all the work you've done and consolidate it into visual, written, or oral components. And you kind of bring upon the different sub-teams together to summarize everything you've done. And then finally, you go to the competition, which is, in my opinion, the most exciting part of it, where you get to see what every other team has been up to and all the like crazy problems that they've been able to find solutions to. And that is what a normal iGEM cycle looks like, at least for our team. And yeah, so this happens every year, and around right now is right when it starts, as you can see from the cycle. So it is a great time to be joining.
Yanela. So now we have I have a small video for you so that I can get you a bit excited about the big jamboree. I'm going to explain what is this in a bit, but there you go.
Hello, everyone! Hello, iGEM!
Welcome to the 2021 iGEM Jamboree. We've got 350 teams, about 7,000 people participating, hundreds of volunteers, hundreds of judges.
Hello, 2021 iGEMers! One of the best parts of iGEM community is the international flavor.
The teams have all created project promotion videos, project videos, their wikis, and now they're going to be participating in judging sessions over these next few days.
Hello everyone, I'm Guilherme, one of your remote hosts.
My name is Somdeep and I'm an iGEM ambassador to Asia and Oceania.
Most of the projects involve a team having a dream, and they will get those dreams made into reality.
Hi there, I'm Will Wright, the Director of Entrepreneurship.
And I'm Chen Kai, the Chair of iGEM Epic 2021.
This year, some of you will have the opportunity to meet on-site during the Jamboree. These are the Jamboree meetups.
Until today, that was my favorite iGEM moment. But now, seeing people from all over South America gathering together here, this is my favorite memory.
Congratulations! 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 Woo!
Okay, so there was a bit about last year's Jamboree, which was online because of COVID. But this usually is a really big meeting where all the teams present their projects and they gather together. We're probably going to give a bit more of detail on this later, but yeah. Usually these different projects have different tracks. So some of the examples I'm not going to go so in depth in here are health, sciences, energy, agricultural sector, industrial, and many more. So this is also a good idea, a good base for you to try to decide where you want your project to go. And then let's talk a bit more about the teams and subgroups. I'm going to try to explain a bit of what each component makes. And Yanela, maybe if you want to jump in at some point to help me give more information, that would be cool. But okay, so for now, we are looking for around 12 to 15 people to compose a team. We are still not sure. We are going to form the first team for UBCO, representing our campus. This team will be divided in different subdivisions, which will be in charge of different parts of the project because it has to get a lot of things done. And if you're in a subgroup, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to join to the other ones. So yeah, let's see a little bit about them. These are some of the ones that we have established. We are not going to have them all. We may. It depends on what our project is going to be. But we are going to talk about some of the most common ones, which in this case are going to be the wet lab, the dry lab, fundraising and finance and human practices. So let's go through them. The two big ones I'll say are the wet lab and the dry lab. The wet lab is everything that has to do with molecular biology. It includes designing the actual circuit, the actual synthetic biology part. It includes all the techniques like electrophoresis, protein purification, working with the DNA, looking at the registry of parts, and coming up with new ideas that are directly linked to the molecular biology aspect. Then we have also the dry lab. This part makes sense, well, as the kind of name implies, it's not usually working with the lab with all the molecular part. It's more of making mathematical models, for example, to make sure that our circuit makes sense before just trying to make experiments with it, make some simulations, trying to understand if we have to make like a software, hardware, some computing here, and also mathematical knowledge and coding. I don't know if there's something that I missed. Oh, that's good. Cool. Okay. Then we had the fundraising and marketing, which this part is because the competition actually takes quite a lot of funding from us to get together just to get in, which is around $5,000 US. So for that, we have to get in contact with people, with different organizations, even faculty, to see where we get the funding for that. And some different things that teams around the world have been doing is literally selling merch, getting some big symposiums. I remember that I saw that a group of Central American countries got together and they make a synthetic biology class symposium, and they just charged a bit for it, and it was all the funds went to fund the different teams to get into the competition. So you really have to know how to get sponsorships, know how to manage all of this and get a good outreach. And then finally, we have a part that is pretty unique to iGEM. Normally, when you do science research, you only care about the actual sciences. But human practices is a special part of iGEM that requires you to get in contact with the people, with the ones that are going to benefit out of your solution at the end. You have to get in contact with them. You also have to think about the ethical portions of it, think about biosecurity, biosafety, maybe even education, expanding synthetic biology knowledge, and much more. Yeah, I don't know if Yanela, you would like to add something to the different portions?
Yeah, I think this encompasses the things that most matter, at least for the competition. And I think human practices is something that's really unique to iGEM because apart from just doing research that's going to be impactful or interesting or well-made, you actually get to share that with the world. And I think making integrated human practices, which is what's on the left here, and outreach like priorities in your project really gets you to that goal. And it also allows you to meet a lot of different people or feel like you're actually making an impact with your research, because sometimes that's difficult to feel like when you're like late at night in the lab, like preparing things like that, you're like, oh my gosh, is this really even worth it? Like, who am I even impacting with this? But then through doing human practices and, for example, like talking about the people who are affected by your problem or like who are interested in your product, or being able to inspire people through education about pursuing, for example, like a STEM career, then it really feels much more meaningful.
Okay, so the next portion.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm the VP of Graphic Design and Social Media, I'm Melissa. And so as for time commitments, iGEM is a 1-year commitment, and you should expect to spend a minimum baseline of 6 to 10 hours during the school year. But this obviously really depends on what group you want to go into. So for example, research, well, these 6 to 10 hours will probably involve meetings, conceptual training, lots of brainstorming. For human practices, this will probably involve 2 to 4 hours in addition, since this is when like the bulk of workshops for high schools and university students will be done. And there's a lot of planning and outreach and organization involved with these workshops. And then fundraising, this is also where a lot of the sponsorship outreach, fundraising, and all that stuff is done, since you do have to meet in the April deadline of fundraising $7,000. As for the summer, this is when like the wet lab and the dry lab will do the most work. So this will be probably around 20 to 40 hours. In comparison, people like fundraising will probably do around 1 to 2 sporadic hours during the summer to probably further brand recognition, depending on like what the projects you plan on taking on. And then Gus, if you want to switch to the next slide. All right, so what does a team look like? So we have the principal investigators, and these are the people responsible for official paperwork and resources, such as like the laboratory. These guys must be professors. Luckily, we actually already have a professor reach out to us, and we've heard some really good things about them from our up-year iGEM execs. So we're in the process of working out that process. So, and then we have the students who are the team players. So these are like you guys. They're responsible for brainstorming, making choices, turning ideas into reality, which is really just like a sugar-coated way of saying all the grunt work. These guys are the undergraduates and master's students under the age of 24. And then out of like the team players, we have the team leaders, and they'll be the point of contact between the team and the PI and the iGEM headquarters. Then we have the instructors and advisors, and they'll be providing the day-to-day support, the technical training, and these guys will probably be post and grad and post-grad students. Yeah, and then, all right, so, I think we skipped the slide. Okay, who are we looking for? We're looking for those who are willing to dedicate time and effort to learn new concepts and skills. Obviously, iGEM involves a huge learning curve. It will involve multiple training sessions. It involves a lot of reading a variety of resources, such as textbooks and journal articles by yourself. So the most passionate and dedicated members will probably find the most ease with combating this huge learning curve. And then we also value those who are good at communication. So the ideal member would be someone that answers messages within 2 days, attends most meetings, and then obviously lets us know if you can't attend, or if, like, for example, you have to go offline because of finals, they would let us know if they're busy. And then we also care about those who would actively participate and meet team deadlines. So we obviously want to do well in the competition, and if someone does not do their part, it definitely makes it challenging for the rest of the team. On a final note, we don't really care about like the most outstanding students, but rather someone who has like the passion and the active personality and drive to dedicate themselves to iGEM. And then the next slide.
Basically, as another point to the last part, yeah, we are looking for people that are proactive and that really care about the project. So there's a lot of learning by yourself. And again, we are not synthetic biology experts, so we are going to learn a lot because that's not what we have in our curriculum. Anja? So here we have some of the past projects that we compiled so that you have an idea of what the competition is about. Usually, the big iGEM projects may seem like they are trying to save the world, which is really cool. But here are some different things so that you can get an idea of how different people think and get to the limits of synthetic biology. Here we have the first one, which is Lixion for 2021. The idea was to try to make perfume out of synthetic biology. So trying to make fragrances in a much easier way using these bioreactors with bacteria, getting them engineered. One that I really love is Morphe from 2020. They had their problem was that they didn't have, like for example, dyes, they can be really destructive to our environment. So their idea was to try to look for inspiration in nature. How can we make color without having to make dyes? And they get into structural color and they look, okay, how do we make a structural color with bacteria, which is what we usually modify. That is the biofilms, and they modify them so that they were able to create different colors from just a structure. The team here in Surrey, they made a robot that can smell, which is just crazy. You know that computers, they are able to compute, but cells can too. So you just put a part that is able to detect a molecular smell and an output that you connect that to a robot and some systems, more engineering parts to it. And now you have something that can detect the different smells. maybe this was something cool to detect where's the lemon smell. That thing further, you know that dogs are trained to be able to detect bombs by smell. It will be cool to have a robot that can do that as well. 3 other projects here that are cool as well. This one from Equilibrium, they look more at a biological problem. Instead of solving like a big problem, let's help the biologists to understand more the molecular aspect. Here at Team Surge, they help also in the part of the infection. You have more of the information in there. So how to treat something that is not antibiotics, how to enhance a virus that can affect the bacteria instead of using molecules. Here at Team in Ecuador, Agrobactery, so what they try to do is to try to produce like an RNA that is able to silence and combat some diseases from the plants. So it is really nice. And now we want to talk about what do you gain from this experience. So basically, as we said before, you're going to learn a lot of things that are not part of your curriculum. Even if you are not from sciences, you're going to learn a lot from biology by being part of this team. If you are from biology, you're going to learn a lot about how to graphically design, how to get in contact with people, how to manage things, maybe the ethics. We don't think much about that when we are in the sciences. You're going to learn how to present, how to work in a team, how to be responsible, design a lot of different aspects. And probably the other really good selling points is that you're going to be able to meet with a lot of people internationally. There are teams all over the world, and it is not uncommon by any means to get in contact with them, not just in Canada. There are some regular meetings that we are going to have as well. You are going to pick your own project, which is different from a research project here in UBCO, for example. Instead of a URA, where usually you have something that is already made or is really restricted. Here, the limit is literally what you want to do. We are not restricted to make a really impactful project economically, but you can do something that you really want and it's really interesting for you. Then it's also going to help you get not only recognitions outside of campus, but it's also going to merge different areas. We are trying to get together the engineering department with the biology department and the chemistry ones, and maybe even the ones in arts and much more, trying to get all the faculties and all areas joined by biology. And finally, our biggest selling point this year, I think, is that you'll be able to go to Paris to present your project and we'll have a cool time in there. So yeah, I think we got to the end of the meeting for now. So if you have any questions, you can just shoot them.
I would like to add something about what I've personally gained from being in iGEM the past almost 3 years. I think it also gives you a lot, like apart from what Gus said, which is all really like valuable experience, like personally, professionally, socially, like learning about what you want in your career, what you don't want. I think apart from that, it gives you a lot of opportunities that you maybe don't anticipate. So for example, it's been 2-ish years that I've been involved in iGEM. I've had a lot of unexpected opportunities. So for example, in our first year, we did a software project because it was right when COVID happened. So we didn't have access to our lab, but we do now. And that involved, we had the opportunity to write grants with our PI to help us get funding for our project. We actually presented that project at a bunch of different conferences, not only the iGEM competition. So after the competition ends, you're free to, or even before, you're free to present your results or your idea to any other conference. So for example, we presented at the Harvard National Collegiate Research Conference, at the Stanford Research Conference, and we also even got the opportunity to write and publish a paper about our 2020 project, which is on bioRxiv right now. So I really echo what Gus said about like, the limit is kind of endless. Like in iGEM, I feel like the world is like my oyster. Like I can do anything with the research I can create. Like you can take it as far as you want. There's also a lot of iGEM projects that have gone on to become startups. And that's what certain committees in iGEM are dedicated to, like iGEM Epic. And also personally for my professional development, being involved in iGEM gave me a lot of experience, like wet lab experience and also research experience that took me to my current co-op posting. So because I met like a graduate advisor through iGEM, he was in a lab that wanted to take me in for co-op, and that gave me a lot more professional experience. And from that co-op, it took me to another co-op at a biotech company that I'm in now. So I think being in iGEM has really like catalyzed my professional development, even if you feel like, oh, I don't know anything about molecular biology, I don't know anything about synthetic biology, like this seems so hard, like how could I do this? Like there's no course ever in university that's going to teach you about synthetic biology. Like we all come into this not knowing that much, but that's why we're in together to learn together.
That's great. So are there any questions? You can shoot them in the messages or just unmute yourself. Oh, there's one. So what's the concept for this year? We don't have one. The idea is to get the team together, and what we usually do is that we start giving ideas. What we want to do now is to try to get the team first, and then see what everyone really likes, and from there trying to get a better understanding of our idea, while talking with the PIs and the other advisors that we are going to have.
Yeah, as I mentioned, usually the first task you have is like all together as a team coming up with an idea for the year, which is one of the most fun parts of it.
Can I do it if I can stay in the summer? That's a difficult question. I guess it really depends.
I would say
really
for
depends.
I would say for like wet lab, that's definitely you would have to stay in the summer. In comparison, if you think you can do like fundraising remotely, I think if that's something that you can work out and you think that you're capable of doing, you can do it. But if you are wanting to go into like wet labs or like more of the hands-on stuff, we would prefer that you stay in Kelowna.
Yeah, we will definitely prefer to have the people in person with us. I don't know if you, Janela, had any experience with people working remotely.
Yeah, that's always a tricky one. I would say for wet lab, that's definitely difficult or quite inconvenient, and that's usually not like ideal at all. But if you are in human practices or in dry lab, then that is like logistically possible. So we have done that in the past, but what we've observed happen, it's just like for you to evaluate it personally, is that usually, for example, we have people who say they're in dry lab, but they go in co-op for the summer, like somewhere else. And what we see is that because they're in another city, and because maybe like at that point meetings are in person, like you're the only one online, they feel more like disconnected from the team, and they kind of like drop off personally because they don't feel as like there, or as, I don't know, maybe they lose interest, they're like in a new city, like, yeah, like very busy with their co-op. That's what we've usually seen as a trend. It doesn't necessarily mean that if you're remote, that's going to happen, and it shouldn't happen if you're like a good and organized person who is really passionate about this. But that's usually what we've seen happen for people who are remote during summer. But it is definitely feasible if you're part of like human practices or marketing or dry lab.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I also had experience with another iGEM team. We worked entirely remotely because of COVID. We made it happen, but it was because the entire team was online. Mm-hmm. So definitely the feeling of being apart in meetings, that's something that's probably going to affect. I think I saw other question related to that. So yeah, technically it will depend a lot. You could technically be part of the wet lab being remote, like designing the circuits, but yeah, difficult. What else? Is the type of research guaranteed? For example, if I'm interested in human practices, will I get to work in it for sure? I'll say mostly, yeah, because even if we say that we would like to have 3 to 2 people per subgroup, we're probably going to have a lot of people, in 2 or 3 people just working in the actual science, in the molecular lab, while others are going to be in the other sections. So what we will prefer is that you are doing what you like, or what you're really interested in, even if you don't know the skills now, that you are able to learn them. So I don't know if that answered the question. How will the allocated team roles work? I know, I think the UBCV, what they do is that they do it since the beginning for the application, right?
What we do is kind of ask people to express their interest in certain sub-teams since the beginning. So they kind of rank what sub-teams they would like to be part of. So we have like the list. So we have like wet lab, like software, hardware, human practices, like marketing, etc. And people rank. And then based on what they want, we kind of tailor when we talk to them as a like little like interview or chat, we kind of tailor the questions to them. So for example, if they want to be in wet lab, we kind of see what their past experience is like, or if they are like quick to learn or eager to learn. And if there's certain features of them, like when we meet and like try to confirm their like placement in roles that would make it very difficult for them to be part of a certain role, then we kind of give them their second option. So for example, like as an example, someone says that they're really interested in wet lab, and then when we talk to them, they say that they're going to be like in co-op in summer and they live really far away, but they put like human practices as their second option. Then we're like, oh, we see it a bit unfeasible that you will be able to be in the lab like a significant enough amount of time for you to like significantly contribute to the wet lab like physical work. But if you're comfortable with doing human practices, then we think that would be best. And of course, if anyone is extremely passionate about it and they're like, no, I can make it work, like I'll come in the evenings, I'll come in the weekends, then it's really flexible in how the different roles are kind of like interconnected, or like how many different sub teams you're part of. There's like many people who are in wet lab are also part of human practices, or they contribute to human practices, and to a lot of different ones as well. So at least in our experience, that's how it's worked. So related to Rama's question, it's kind of like whichever one you want the most is how you will probably be allocated to a role. But if there's like a very inconvenient or like red flag about it, or like something that's inconvenient for you to complete that role, then we would recommend another one.
Yeah. On our part, yeah, definitely whatever you feel you're suited the best. And yeah, so Rowan, am I allowed to join the team now for training and next year for the competition? I'll say no, but there's a big but. The difference, I think, is that we are also a club now. We are thinking about making these training sessions open, but definitely with emphasis in our team members first. We are probably going to have other kinds of training similar, probably taking inspiration from what we are going to do in the iGEM team for the general public. But we really want to focus on the people that are going to be going to the competition. So quite a lot of commitment.
Also, if you're saying that because you feel like you won't be ready to contribute significantly, or like you feel like, wow, I know nothing about this, like I need a whole year of training before I feel comfortable enough to compete, then like everyone else is coming with the same amount of experience or knowledge as you, so you will be like, you will have enough knowledge and enough skills to compete this year if you join this year, for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Any questions? More questions? Or maybe meanwhile, but people are thinking, oh, coding language used. I think we haven't talked about the wiki.
Oh. So wiki, yeah, so the competition requires you to have to like code your own website that the judges will judge you on, like everything on from scratch, and that's using like HTML, CSS, maybe Java, but that's not something that you would require to have in joining the team.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically for the wiki part, as Zinel said, is what is going to be used to judge. If it is not in the wiki, we didn't do it. So we're going to worry about that later. Usually they require the HTML, but if, for example, in the dry lab, I've seen people that know how to use Python, some different things to actually do molecular biology with it, how to do docking, how to use Blast, for example, any different tools. And even if we need a specific language, I'm sure that the willingness to learn a new language is also part of being part of a team. Cool. Maybe while we wait for a bit of other questions, could you tell us about the Jamboree, Janela, the in-person Jamboree?
Sure. So in the years that I've been involved with UBC's iGEM team, I haven't been able to attend since I joined in 2020. That was the pandemic. And then in 2021, it was also online. But I attended to the physical Jamboree when I was part of an iGEM team in high school. So I can't remember if Gus mentioned this, but in the iGEM competition, you can be like an undergraduate team or an overgraduate team or a high school team. So I competed as a high school team in my hometown back in Peru. And it's really, really exciting. Like you can see how hard everyone has worked towards the same common goal. And they have like every day is something different, but they have like workshops everywhere or like little like get together social activities or like training sessions where you can learn new things about synthetic biology. They invite speakers, they invite like people from the biotech industry, so like from Ginkgo Bioworks, from Amgen, all different things. So you can attend all those events, and then you can also see everyone else's projects. There's a huge poster session where you have to make a poster and present it, and the judges come around and talk to you, but you can also talk to other teams. And from that can stem, like, for example, future collaboration. So you see someone, like a team that is like relatively close to where you live, and you're like, hey, like I hadn't known about you guys, like, oh, we should keep in touch to like collaborate next year. And you can make like collaborations of like sharing DNA or sharing ideas, anything like that. And then everyone also has like a little booth with a huge banner, so you can walk around and see everyone else's. And then everyone presents in person as well to judges and to all the other teams, and that's really fun and exciting. And then in the award ceremony is where like it like really, and I was just a high school student, but I was so inspired by it. It was the first time I had ever felt like, wow, like I'm like sitting like in the future right now, like this is what the future is. And in the award ceremony, like everyone who won would like start crying, like hugging, like running towards the stage. It was just really, really exciting. So if we get to do it this year, it'll be really nice. And usually it's held in Boston, but now it's going to be held in Paris, so it'll be even more exciting.
Yeah, it's really cool. Something also from my experience, please feel free to write more questions in the chat. I participated in the iGEM design competition, which was a different one, only focused for Latin American countries. And it was only based in the design portion because of COVID. I think they took advantage of that. A lot of interactions with different teams. So working with them, coming up with different projects. We did a coloring book to try to explain to children a little bit about synthetic biology, trying to get into the communities. Our project had to do with agriculture. So we went to the markets, so with the agriculture, with the farmers, and try to explain them and see what was their problem. Really interesting experience. We actually won the big prize, and we are now invited to go to Ginkgo's Biowork headquarters in Boston. And that after doing that, we also appeared in the news in Peru in general, and a lot of different companies try to get in contact with us to try to see how our technology can be used. So it's really something that can become really big.
That's super cool. I didn't know that. When are you going to Ginkgo?
Sometime in the next, probably in the next month. I think we are only going to go for a week and that's it. But they are going to synthesize our circuit.
Really? That's so fun. What? Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah. One more question. When can we expect an answer for our application? Alisa, when was the deadline?
The deadline is January 24th, 11:59, and then we'll be in contact right away. So we'll send out emails, and then we'll try to meet up with the people between January 25th to January 8th.
Yeah. So yeah, try to make sure to put your best in the application, because that's going to be your first impression for us. And then we're going to meet with you. We want people from all different areas. So if you have any friends that you think are kind of interested, this meeting is going to be recorded. We're going to have everything on our website. And you can also look at for yourself in iGEM what's the competition about. And yeah, cool. Okay, let's give it maybe 2 more minutes and yeah. There are no any other questions. Let me tell one project that I really like. Usually these projects seem to try to help the world, try to solve a really big problem. But one that I really liked was from India. What they did is that they created bacteria that made the smell of wet soil. Why? So for India, it is really important for them, the agricultural portion of it. The monsoon is something that the culture is really considered is important. So with this project, they aim to bring molecular biology closer to the population. And it was just amazing. I think they won the prize for, I don't think women practice or something else, but having really good interaction with the people. They are not making biology easier, they are not saving the world, but they are bringing biology to the people, making it a common language, common knowledge. It's really nice. 1 more minute, and if we don't have a question, we are good to go. Okay, so as always, we end that. How will you change the world with biology? Thanks for coming to this meeting. I hope we solved some of your questions. If you have more, you can always contact us through our Instagram. We're really active, through our mail and our website. Thanks again to UBC Vancouver for accompanying us. And we also would like to have some interaction in the future, some teamwork. And remember to apply by the deadline. And that's it. Thank you very much.